good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the past week or so. And I have to apologize for my prolonged absence from the program. I, as you know, was discharging government duties in Europe and later on in the Caribbean, and those assignments prevented me from appearing on this program in about 3 successive weeks. And I know how many people have missed this program. I've received innumerable messages on WhatsApp, on Facebook, in my inbox, and so on. So I want to thank you very much for your patience and understanding. And I want to thank you very much for looking forward to this show and for supporting this show over the past years. As usual, I want to begin by extending good night greetings to all of those who are joining us from Mahaica to West Coast Berbice in Region 5 on the television. Good evening, and good evening to all of you who are joining us on television in Region 6, beginning from East Bank, Berbice, New Amsterdam, Kanji, Upper and Lower Quarantine Coast, and all the way to Molson Creek. And I am told that way down the Quarantine River, persons are logging in to our program on television as well. I was quite surprised that way down the Quarantine River, persons are joining us, and they asked me to salute them as I hereby do. Those of you up the Quarantine River in Region 6, I salute you for joining us on this program. To our listeners and viewers on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, good evening and welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And on our Facebook live feed from right across Guyana, the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, and as far as Australia, good evening and welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And to the people looking at this program from places like the Cayman Islands that I didn't even know used to look at this program until I went there recently. Good evening and welcome to this program, another edition of Issues in the News. And of course, as I said, I want this program to be as interactive as possible and for us to enjoy the widest possible audience and listenership. So I want you to press that share button on your computer, press that share button on your phone so that this program can be shared among your friends and among your followers. I want to recognize a few people: Norma Gayadin, Abdul Rahman, Chitra Prasad, Ann Hill, Matbar Singh, Krishna Dhanpal, Anita Hiralal, Shanta Baldev, and so many of you. Ryan Chitranjan, Jai Kisoon. And I saw so many people coming up earlier on the screen. Welcome all of you, and please ensure that you press that button on the phone, on your computer, so that this program is shared with your friends and among your followers as well, so that we can have the widest possible audience. Sunil Batulal, Spectacular Events, Vedo Singh, Vasudev Singh, Brijanand Hore Sankar from Florida. I recognize that name, and there are so many regulars that have now become familiar with the names without even knowing who the faces to associate with those names, because they are now fixtures on this program. So we have so much to discuss, but it's better late than never. I am back, and thank you very much for joining us in yet another program of Issues in the News. And thank you for your patience and your understanding, and for being here with us again this evening, not losing faith during my absence. Today, I presented the petition to admission to the local bar of a number of young persons to practice law. Why I mention this is because you would have been reading over the past weeks and would have been seeing over the past weeks the number of young people who are being admitted to the local bar. A couple of years ago, young people, when they graduated, wanted to leave this country. They hunted for greener pastures. Half of them never returned to the country. And even those who returned, they returned only temporarily while they secure employment and a life elsewhere. You are seeing now that our young people are returning in droves to live and, most importantly, to serve their country and to serve the people of their country. Why? Obviously, they are seeing a future in Guyana. They are seeing the transformation that is taking place in our country. They are seeing now for the first time a Guyana that is stable and a Guyana in which they can live their future and in which they can start a family and continue here in Guyana without the thought or attraction of migration or migrating to another land. And that is a signal accomplishment of the government, and it is also a signal of the reality that is now becoming part of the everyday life of our country. That is to say, the transformational developments that are taking place right across the length and breadth of our country in every area of national life. And that, my friends, is what is giving the opposition and those opposed to the government sleepless nights. And that is why they are becoming so rabid and more rabid in their pronouncements, in their denouncements, and in their political and other outputs. So last night, we had a parliamentary sitting where we discussed two of the most important pieces of legislation for the democratic architecture of our country. Amendments to the Representation of the People Act and amendments to the National Registration Act. These two pieces of legislation cumulate to strengthen our electoral machinery and the democratic polity of our country. They accumulate and aggregate to bring greater transparency, greater accountability, and greater efficiency to our electoral machinery. It seeks to restore to GCOM as an elections commission the level of public confidence that is required for such a body to discharge its functional responsibility with the type of credibility that such an organization needs from the members of the public, so that whatever decision it makes, it enjoys the public confidence and the public trust. One would have thought that these fundamental reforms, these important reforms that strike at the very heart and soul of our electoral system and machinery would have attracted from the opposition a meaningful contribution. Lo and behold, by the time we got to the commencement of the debates at about 7 p.m., more than 50% of the opposition benches were empty. And I am not counting the number of them who were suspended. I am speaking about the number of them who can attend the parliament and were in the parliament earlier. The National Assembly commenced its sittings yesterday at 10 a.m. and we had to deal with 2 supplementary financial papers. They dragged those financial papers out from 10 a.m. and they concluded those papers at 6 p.m. They were permitted to ask any number of questions by the Speaker of the National Assembly without any restraint or without even any form of regulation whatsoever. They had absolute and utmost freedom and latitude in asking their questions of the various ministers in relation to the sums of money that were being approved or approval was being requested for in the National Assembly. And they went to town. We spent 8 hours on those 2 papers from 10 to 6 p.m., 10 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. Yet, they would leave the parliament and would go to the television or on their Facebook page to say that we are not democratic, that we are not accountable, that we do not provide the information which they request or which they are requesting. But they spent 8 hours grilling the various ministers. And then the debate began at 7. These people do no work. I have never seen a more lazy grouping, a more lackadaisical grouping, a more complacent grouping in the Parliament of Guyana since I have been there more than this bunch. And I have been there now for about 4 parliaments. I have been there now over 16 or more years. And I've never seen a bunch like this. They don't make any attempt to get any information other than asking for it in the National Assembly. And they expect ministers must go there and spoon feed them information. We sign agreements of all types on a daily basis within the government structure. These agreements are public documents. They are posted on websites. They are posted at the ministry websites, at departmental websites. They can write or they can call and they can get copies. Some of them are filed as a matter of public record at the Deeds and Commercial Registry. These people don't know anything or they don't make any attempt to get these documents. And then they run around the country to say that we are control freakists, that we don't want to divulge information. They will expect us to fetch bags and bags of documents and hand it to them in Parliament. That is the level of laziness that I'm speaking about. They want us to give them the list of all the contracts that are awarded when government does not award contracts. Contracts are awarded by a lawful statutory tribunal called the National Tender and Administration Board, a statutory body, corporate, separate and independent of central government. And that entity by law must make all contracts public, and they do. They post them on a website. They post the bids on a website. They post the results of their assessment of those bids on a website. They post their awards on a website. All these people got to do is to go there and get it. But they want to come to the Parliament, and we must fetch that information and bring it to them. I don't believe that that is our responsibility. You have to pull your weight. These people are being paid handsomely by the taxpayers. They enjoy duty-free concessions of an unlimited nature. Some of them enjoy other facilities as well. Oh man, the least that you can do is to come there and do the people's work. Some of them are unemployed. They work nowhere else. Yet they don't get the time or make the time to do the people's work. So last night when the debate began on two of these most important bills, 50% of them were absent because they can't sit in the Parliament from 10 a.m. to 7. By 7 o'clock, they're falling asleep. So half of them went home. And the half or more that remained, by the time we finished debating the first bill, the entire opposition benches were empty, other than the Deputy Speaker who joined us on Zoom. So after the debate of the first bill, the Representation of the People Amendment Bill, by the time we concluded that debate, all of them left. And that was after midnight. They all left. They can't stay to do the people's work. They refuse to stay to do the people's work. One by one, they are walking out of the Parliament. 3 of them spoke only. 3 of them spoke. The leader of the opposition submitted his name as a speaker, but opted not to speak. He left the Parliament long before the debates were concluded. In fact, he left before the debate began. This is a leader of the opposition who is serious about leading a party to election victory, and the most crucial pieces of legislation to reform the electoral system that you are depending upon to deliver victory to you, you refuse to even stay in the Parliament to debate it? That is the example you are setting? Is that the quality of representation that the people who voted for you deserve? You know, they're running around the country telling the people that those who are suspended, because of their misbehavior, that suspension is denying some 40,000 Guyanese representation in the Parliament. That's what they're saying. That's not them. It's the 40,000 persons whom they are representing are the ones who are suffering and being denied representation. Well, I don't know which one of the 40,000 elected them to go into the National Assembly to behave like hooligans, break the mace and destroy the parliamentary property, and dance and whine and blow whistle and gyrate and march I don't know who elected them to do that, but quite apart from that, what happened to the rest? Who's stopping them from going to the parliament and representing the other half or the other segment of the electors who voted for them? You know, they spoke on the bill, the two bills, and Amanza Desir spoke on the bill and did not read it at all. Did not read it at all. I don't know how a person can have such self-confidence to stand in a parliament where the proceedings are being streamed live, a lawyer at that, and speak on a piece of lawmaking and has not read it. You have to be a special talent to be able to do that. And the young lady did that for 30 minutes, talk about everything under the sun. And guess what is their position? We should send it to a select committee. We should send it to a select committee. This bill has been with them for over a year. It has been in the public domain for over a year. We had 3 rounds of consultations. They attended one and they walked out without making a contribution before the end of the consultation. They walked out, the same Amanza Desir, Kemraj Ramjatan, Roysdale Ford, and Tabitha Sarabo Hali. They walked out of the public consultation right at the Arthur Chung Convention Center about a month ago. They had the bill itself after it was put on the order paper. 3 weeks now. It was read a first time over 3 weeks ago. Still yet she didn't get time to read it. You know what they want? We must go to a select committee and I must read it as the presenter. I must go through it clause by clause and explain to them what it means. That is the type of spoon feeding that they want us to do. I just did it with the hire purchase bill. We had to sit there and I have to explain clause by clause what it means, what are its practical implications. Only then they would understand it. So they wanted me to go through a bill that is this thick, that they can't read by themselves. I must take them through clause by clause so that they can understand it. I am not a teacher. I am not paid to teach them. I didn't elect them to the parliament. Those who elected them to the parliament must deal with them. And let me say to supporters of APNU AFC, it is your vote that have them in the parliament. And it is a matter completely for you, whether you want to continue to have that quality of representation. If you want that quality of representation, my friends, continue voting for them. If you want change, if you want something better than that, then vote for change and vote for something better than that. Of course, I prefer that you vote for the PPP, but if you don't wish to vote for the PPP, vote at least for something better than that. You deserve better than that. These people do nothing for anyone else other than themselves. Mr. Ford spoke, nothing of substance. Mr. Ramjatan spoke, and he harangued for about 45 minutes on the same issue. Up to now, he doesn't understand that the Constitution, our supreme law, has abolished residency as a requirement both for registration and voting. And therefore, it is incumbent upon the National Assembly to trim our laws, modify our laws, adjust our laws to bring it in conformity with the Constitution. Any first year law student would understand that the law must bend and bow to the glory of the supremacy of the Constitution. Ramjatan, a lawyer of some 30 or 40 years standing, has difficulty in understanding that. So he spent the whole night talking about that. But I'll invite everyone looking at this program to look back at our debates. You don't have to look at me, but look at the members on our side. Each of them who spoke took various clauses of the bill and expounded their importance, expounded their meaning and intention, and showed practically and pragmatically how the changes which we are proposing will impact positively on all the political parties contesting the election and on the process itself, to make it clearer, to make it simpler, to make it more efficient, and to make it more transparent and accountable. And that is what those proposals or amendments are intended to accomplish. So, we have to accept now, perhaps more than ever, that we have an opposition in the National Assembly who are completely useless. They spend a lot of time on Facebook and on the social media, fulminating and talking a lot of trash. That's all that they can do. Shouting and banging and ringing bell and scandalizing people and insulting people and humiliating people. That's all that they can do all day. Ask them to do something constructive. Ask them to do something that will benefit their supporters. They can't. And it is because of this vacuous ability, or it is because of their inability to make sensible input in anything concerning national development. It is because of their incapacity to contribute constructively to any national discourse of substance on any given matter that they have to revert to banging the drums of racism. It is because of that. They have no track record to which they can point. They have no democratic past which they can hold up and boastfully speak about. They have nothing currently that they can point to that they have made a sensible recommendation or suggestion anywhere. So it's a bankrupt set of people in terms of ideas, in terms of track performance, in terms of track record, and in terms of plans going forward. Completely bankrupt. The only thing that keeps them alive, that they are sucking and biting like parasites on this animal called racism. So whole day they're pumping that up. That is a mad quest for survival. Hate-mongering, spewing animosity and racial antagonism, exciting hostilities among the various groups in our country is now the only modus operandi left. And you, the people of Guyana, must understand that. So any Afro-Guyanese who says anything good about our government, or any Afro-Guyanese who says anything bad about them is automatically deemed a house slave by these racists. And you see it every day. The tens of thousands of supporters of the PPP, members of our party who are Afro-Guyanese, members of our government who are Afro-Guyanese, from the Prime Minister, the Foreign Affairs Minister, the Home Affairs Minister, the Labour Minister, the Minister of Trade and Tourism, and I can go on. All those people holding those important portfolios are all house slaves in the minds of this bunch who are beating the drums of racism. So, and because we are making great inroads into their support base, because of the transformation that is taking place, because of the empowerment that is happening across the racial divide of this country, because more and more persons from their base are joining the bandwagon of success driven by the government, they are getting progressively more desperate. So they are now constructing documents in which they want to show what they are calling racial discrimination. So they speak about ethnic awards and show how many Indo-Guyanese got contracts or are getting contracts. My brothers and sisters, contracts are awarded not by government, but by a law called the National Procurement Act. That act sets up a tribunal and a machinery that outlines how contracts are awarded. It begins with the public invitation of bids. These bids are assessed by public servants, 85% of whom are Afro-Guyanese, and a recommendation is made in terms of who should get the award based upon the bids submitted, and there are stated criteria by which each bid is assessed. That recommendation is then forwarded from the National Tender Board to the Cabinet for a no objection. And then it's awarded. I don't know how race plays a part, but how can you only look at the award to determine the racial composition? You have to look at who are bidding. It's only the bids that will produce the awards. You can't look at the output, you have to look at the input. What goes in is what will come out. So if red people submit bids, yellow people can't win the bids. It is as simple as that. If they want, and that is all that they know, is to advance the agenda of one racial group in this country, if that is what they want, and that's all that they're doing all day long, then get more persons to enter the fray. Get more persons to enter the bid. If 5 pink men buy 5 lottery tickets, and those are all the tickets that are available, you think a yellow man will win the lottery? They're not telling you that. They're not telling you that. And the truth of the matter is that those statistics would not have been any different under their government. Let them show how many Afro-Guyanese got contracts under their government. They wouldn't tell you that. In fact, I can tell you of Afro-Guyanese contractors, and I can call one company's name because I know, built under the PPP, Courtney Bend Construction Company Limited, built under the PPP, and by the time they came out of government in 2020, that company was in receivership. That is what I can tell you. I can also tell you that 50 acres of state land given to that company by the PPP government for a housing scheme was unlawfully taken back by the APNU government when they went into office. I can tell you that. I can also tell you that this very contractor has now worked out a deal with the government in terms of outstanding contractual obligations and is now back at work. I can tell you that. Let them point to the ordinary black persons whom they have helped while they were in government. I can tell you that they helped a man named Larry Singh by giving him a contract without going to the tender board for 12.5 million Guyana dollars a month to rent a house in Alboiston as a drug bond to store condoms and lubricants. They paid over $400 million in rent to that gentleman. His name is Larry Singh. He's not Afro-Guyanese. Let them tell you the billions of dollars that BK International got under their government contracts. He's not Afro-Guyanese. The point I am making to you, it's not about race for them. It's about cronyism. The normal Afro-Guyanese suffered under them like every other racial grouping in this country. And I know because I stood with certain Afro-Guyanese families against the injustice meted out at the hands of their government. 50 Afro-Guyanese families on the west coast of Berbice who were awarded lease lands under the Donald Ramotar administration by the MMADA, their leases were revoked by President David Granger, and 50 families were put on the breadline. Afro-Guyanese family. Basil Williams himself, as the Attorney General, fought me tooth and nail in those cases. I won all, and he appealed everyone. Basil Williams, the Attorney General, Afro-Guyanese family, ordinary Afro-Guyanese family. That's what they did to them. Let them explain when they chased Baishan Lin out of Guyana. Let them explain how many dozens of Afro-Guyanese families, loggers, who they bankrupted in Region 10, who were given small logging concessions by Bharat Jagdev government between 2006 to 2011. Hundreds of small forestry concessions were given to Afro-Guyanese in Region 10. These persons took loans from IPED. They bought machinery on credit. They bought chainsaw on hire purchase from courts and other places. They sold their logs to buy Shanling, piles and piles of logs. And then did that government chase Bai Shanling out of the country. The people couldn't pay, bankrupting all those families. All of them, I believe, may have voted for them. All Afro-Guyanese. Who got lands under their government? You think it's the ordinary Afro-Guyanese? They gave some lands, they built condominiums, and they were so incompetent the people became tenants, not title holders. It is under our government that we changed the law that now allows those tenants to be converted into owners. All of them are Afro-Guyanese. And I can continue to give more and more information to show that only their friends and cronies benefited. They had a man named Ben at Lands and Surveys who used to chase Indo-Guyanese out when they go there to inquire about lands. I have listened to many, many stories. He says plain to them, you are not to get lands here. But whom did he give the lands to? First of all, President Granger never gave him the power because they can only exercise powers that the president gave them. President Granger never gave him power to give titles for lands. But he gave, and he charged a huge sum of monies for it to Afro-Guyanese. Those people came back to us when we were in government. And we are in the process of regularizing those transactions. If we were a malicious government, we could have annulled all the transactions and they would have lost all their money because they were all illegal. And they know it. All their lawyers have agreed that what was done was unlawful. We entered into transactions with each of them, Afro-Guyanese business persons, and have regularized those land transactions and have given them time to pay. Let them tell you, one man they gave, one of their cronies, they gave a lease for the entire, from Vredenhoop to Crane, the entire seawall front. They give their cronies miles and miles of riverfront property on every major river in this country. We disclose all of that. The former chief elections officer, how many house lots did they give to the ordinary Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, or any Guyanese? How many house lots you think they gave? And now they want to masquerade as representing Afro-Guyanese and claim discrimination about awards of contracts. They bankrupted many, many Afro-Guyanese contractors. I don't want to call people names. I live in this country. I am on the road every day. I am known. People know me. They come and they talk to me. I had one of the largest legal practices in this country, practice of law. I meet people from all walks of life. They come and they tell me their stories. They tell me how much bribe they had to pay to survive. They tell me what Soku used to do to them, what GRA was used as and for. They don't want to come out and talk now. Afro-Guyanese contractors bankrupt them. And today you're pointing your hands looking at statistics in the most jaundiced way and pointing your hands and crying racism? Because Indo-Guyanese are getting the majority of contracts, if that is your contention, and that is discrimination, the government is discriminating. Let's follow the logic. Is the government discriminating against Indo-Guyanese, and that's why they're not in the army? Is government discriminating against Indo-Guyanese, and that is why Indo-Guyanese are not in the army? Is government discriminating against Indo-Guyanese, and that's why Indo-Guyanese are not in the police force? Is it that government is discriminating against Indo-Guyanese, that is why Indo-Guyanese is not in the prison service? Is it that Indo-Guyanese are being discriminated, and that's why they can't get jobs at UG? Is it that because Indo-Guyanese are discriminated against, that 85% of the public servants are non-Indo-Guyanese? Is that your theory? These people are just full of hate. They're all full of jaundice. And is a sad bunch. And that is why, my friends, we can't, while we must discuss it, and while we must unmask their attempt to disguise their racism as they use falsified and concocted data to support their analysis, we must rip it down. Rip it down with the truth. And nothing is a greater weapon than the truth. Nothing. So, they can continue to peddle these narratives. I saw they are now putting down, as part of their statistical narrative, the Afro-Guyanese now who have problems with the police, and they now become government killings. I will produce this statistic when they were in government to show that almost one person was killed in police custody per month for 5 years that they were in government. One person was killed. One person died in police custody per month while they were in government. Majority of them were Afro-Guyanese. But they wouldn't talk those statistics now. But one Afro-Guyanese dying now in the in police custody, it becomes racism. Somehow the government is involved. I appeared for Indo-Guyanese families whose relatives, whose sons, whose husbands died in police custody. Indo-Guyanese during that 5-year period. A man died at Sadi lockups. His name was Lal Bachan. Young man. The allegation is that he was beaten and killed by the police. A police was charged with manslaughter. Charged with manslaughter under their government. Indo-Guyanese. I represented the family and I got millions of dollars for them in compensation. I never say it was racism. I could have alleged that it was racism because I could have said it's an Afro-Guyanese government and they're killing Indo-Guyanese in the lockup. I never said so. I did what a lawyer should do. I represented the family's interest and I got millions of dollars for them. I represented a man who died in custody at Sparandam police station, Indo-Guyanese again, from LBI. I can't remember his name. Represented his family, represented the family after he was killed, or he died in police custody. Again, he was Indo-Guyanese. It was under their government. I made no allegation of racism against their government. I took the matter to the court and I won millions again for that family. I represented a man who was brutalized at Vigilance Police Station, brutalized Indo-Guyanese from Traspay. All the police officers were Afro-Guyanese who allegedly were implicated. I got millions of dollars again from the state. I never once alleged racism. And I can continue to give you real statistics. And I have paperwork. I have the court file. I have the judgment. And I have the people. The relatives are still in Guyana. These are only a couple months ago I'm speaking about, a couple of years ago. Now, when these things happen, they become racism. They become an attack on Afro-Guyanese by an Indian government. This narrative will not last long. We have to keep exposing its falsity, and we have to keep putting out the facts. And in the end, the truth shall prevail. It always has. It always has. Look at the Henry brothers. 5 persons, I believe, have been charged with murder. 2 of them, I believe, or 1 of them confessed to the murder. I believe 2 of them may have been committed already to stand trial for the murder. Yet, that is somehow seen and portrayed as a political crime against Afro-Guyanese. And the persons who are charged have absolutely no political connection to anybody. Absolutely none. Complete fabrication. Persons have been charged. Some persons have been committed to stand trial. Persons have confessed to the murder. And somehow the PPP government is still implicated in this thing. That is the nonsensical Kool-Aid of hate that they are feeding people every day. They want people to drink of this Kool-Aid to keep the country angry, to keep people addicted to them, because that's how they will survive. From the time the persons become conscious, from the time the persons begin to see the light, their existence shall diminish. Their existence gone. They are parasiting off what they are doing to people, the mental abuse. And that's what they're doing. It's mental abuse. They're keeping these people in this mental prison, dependent upon them. They want to create the PPP as this bad, racist organization so that the people can run back to them for protection. That's how they are sustaining their existence. That's how they are surviving. Once they keep those people in ignorance, we have to expose them. We have to educate those people. And that is what our government is committed to do. And that is what we are committed to do. And every day we are working and we are winning the battle. And that is why they are getting more and more desperate. We are winning every stage of the battle, and we will continue to win. You know why? Because this is a different world now. It is hard to oppress a people the way that they are oppressing their supporters and keeping them in ignorance. It's hard. You have the social media. You know how many of them are listening to me here? You know how many of them are listening to me and are doing their own introspection? One by one we will win. And we will bring this country together and unite all the people of our country. There will always be a grouping that you're incapable of influencing, and that's okay. In every society, in every corner of planet Earth, there is such a grouping. But we have to keep hitting at the perpetrators and the masterminds. Those who are creating narratives that an Afro-Guyanese goes into a bank to apply for a loan and the bank tells him no. And he goes home and he changes his name to an Indo-Guyanese name. He turns up at the bank and he gets the loan. So the Afro-Guyanese is now named Persad and he gets through. But when his name was Samuels, he was rejected. And people are believing that kind of diatribe. People are believing that level of hogwash. Anyway, my brothers and sisters, we are coming to program time now, and I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour with me. I believe that we have had a good discussion. I'm sorry that I didn't get to read some of your comments, but I am following them now, and I will go through them, and next week I will incorporate them into our discussions. I want to thank you very much for spending the last hour with me, and hopefully we meet up again next week. Not hopefully, I believe I'm in the country. I don't think I'm traveling for the rest of the year. I am here, and we'll meet up next week as we continue this discourse of national importance. Thank you, and please, may God bless you, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and stay safe until we meet next week. Thank you very much.